Hello, everyone. I hope you're doing great. Let the story begins. Percy Jackson and the Lightning Thief. Look, I didn't want to be a half-blood. If you're listening this because you think you might be one, my advice is stop thinking right now. Believe whatever lie your mom or dad told you about your birth, and try to lead a normal life. But if you recognize yourself in this story, if you feel something stirring inside, stop thinking immediately. You might be one of us. My name is Percy Jackson. I'm 12 years old. Until a few months ago, I was a boarding student at Yancey Academy, a private school for troubled kids in upstate New York. Am I a troubled kid? Yeah, you could say that. But things really started going bad last May, during a school field trip to the Metropolitan Museum of Art in Manhattan. Our Latin teacher, Mr. Brunner, a middle-aged guy in a motorized wheelchair with thinning hair and a tweed jacket that always smelled like coffee, was leading the tour. Mr. Brunner was the only teacher whose class didn't put me to sleep, because he actually made ancient Greek and Roman history come alive. But trouble always seems to find me on field trips. This time, I was trying my absolute hardest to stay out of trouble, especially because I was already on probation, and our other chaperone, Miss S. Dodds, the mean math teacher from Georgia, who always wore a black leather jacket, had her eyes locked on me like a hawk. While looking at a 4-meter-tall stone stele, I answered Mr. Brunner's question about Kronos eating his kids, explaining how the Titan king swallowed his children, how Zeus was hidden away, and how the gods eventually won the Great War and sliced their father into pieces. But things got weird right after that. While the rest of the class headed outside, Mr. Brunner pulled me aside and told me I needed to learn how my studies applied to real life, pushing me harder than anyone ever had before. Out on the museum steps, under a sky growing blacker with an eerie, unseasonal storm, things completely unraveled. Nancy Bobofit was picking on my best friend, Grover, a scrawny kid with acne and a muscular leg condition who wore a perpetual look of anxiety. Suddenly, Miss S. Dodds called me away from the group. She beckoned me into the cavernous, empty Greek and Roman galleries. I thought she was going to chew me out for the museum incident, but things took a terrifying turn. Her eyes flashed with an eerie fire, and her leather jacket seemed to tighten around her like wings. She transformed right before my eyes into a winged monster with razor-sharp teeth and talons, a fury. She demanded to know where I had hidden something, snarling that I had brought it upon myself. I panicked, and when she lunged at me, Mr. Brunner suddenly appeared at the doorway, tossing a pen through the air. I caught it, and it instantly transformed into a lethal bronze sword called Riptide. I swung blindly, and in a flash, Miss S. Dodds disintegrated into a shower of yellow dust, leaving me completely alone, breathless, and entirely bewildered. Even stranger, when I went back outside, nobody else remembered Miss S. Dodds at all. The other kids and our other chaperone, a teacher nobody seemed to recall replacing her, acted like she had never even existed. Only Grover looked at me with nervous, shifty eyes whenever her name was mentioned, hesitating just long enough to make me feel like I was losing my mind. As the school year limped toward its miserable close, things only got stranger. I kept seeing weird old ladies knitting giant socks by the side of the road, ladies that Grover looked at with sheer terror, muttering that it was a bad omen. My grades slipped further. The teachers acted like I was barely there, and the oppressive, stormy weather followed us everywhere we went. Finally, right before exams, I got expelled after losing my temper and getting into another inexplicable mess. When summer break finally hit, my mom, Sally Jackson, the kindest, most wonderful person in the world, who deserved so much better than the miserable life she had, decided we needed a getaway. She packed up our bags and took me to our favorite place in the world, a little cabin right on the tip of Montauk, where we could smell the ocean spray, eat blue food, and just escape from the stress of the normal world for a little while. It was our sanctuary. But sanctuary doesn't last forever when you're a half-blood. Late into the night, the storm broke over the ocean with a terrifying fury. Lightning crashed down, shaking the entire cabin to its foundations, and torrential rain hammered the roof. Suddenly, the door burst open, and standing there in the flashing lightning was my best friend Grover. But he wasn't walking right. In fact, he wasn't walking at all. He was running on cloven hooves, his lower half completely transformed into that of a goat. He shouted at us that we had to get out immediately. Something was hunting us. My mom didn't panic. She immediately threw our bags into the car, and we sped away through the blinding rainstorm, twisting down narrow coastal roads while a massive, roaring black bull-like monster pursued us from behind. The vehicle spun out of control, crashing into a ditch near a tall pine tree on top of a hill. We scrambled out into the mud. The monster, a hulking, muscular minotaur with the head of a raging bull and the body of a man, charged straight at us. My mom told me to run, but the beast caught her in its massive grip. In a flash of golden light right before my eyes, she dissolved into a glittering shower of golden mist, vanishing into thin air. Blinded by absolute rage and grief, I leaped onto the monster's back. I grabbed its sharp horns with all my might and twisted, pulling with every ounce of strength I had left until one of its horns snapped clean off. With a roar of agony, the beast tossed me aside, but I drove the broken horn straight up into its ribs. The minotaur let out one final deafening bellow before dissolving into nothingness right in front of me. Exhausted, bleeding, and heartbroken over the loss of my mother, I dragged her wedding ring and myself across the property line of that strange hill, collapsing unconscious into the arms of a waiting crowd. When I finally woke up days later, I wasn't in a hospital. I was in a farmhouse porch, overlooking a sprawling, magical valley, filled with strawberry fields, climbing walls that spewed real lava, and medieval-looking training arenas. This was Camp Half-Blood, a secret training ground for the children of the Greek gods. Here, I met people who finally understood what it felt like to be different. I met Annabeth Chase, a fiercely intelligent girl with stormy gray eyes and a New York Yankees cap that could turn her invisible, who kept feeding me pudding and watching over me while I healed. I learned that my father wasn't some deadbeat human who left us behind. He was an immortal Olympian god. Life at camp was a whirlwind of sword fighting, chariot racing, and learning how to navigate a world hidden right beneath the nose of mortal humanity. But my arrival didn't go unnoticed. During a brutal game of Capture the Flag, when I was cornered by hostile campers from the Ares cabin, I stumbled into a small creek. The moment the river water touched my skin, my wounds healed, my energy surged, and a glowing, shimmering, holographic trident hovered directly over my head. The message was unmistakable. I was recognized as the son of Poseidon, the lord of the sea. This revelation didn't bring celebration. It brought pure panic. Poseidon and his brothers, Zeus and Hades, had sworn a solemn oath after World War II never to father any more children with mortals, because their kids were simply too powerful and unpredictable. My very existence was a walking, breathing violation of that ancient law. And right around that time, a massive crisis hit Mount Olympus. Zeus's master lightning bolt, the most powerful weapon in the universe, capable of tearing continents apart, had been stolen from his throne room. Zeus was convinced that Poseidon had orchestrated the theft, using me as his divine agent. Unless the bolt was found and returned to the top of the Empire State Building by the summer solstice, which was just days away, a cataclysmic war between the gods would erupt, destroying the mortal world along with it. Summoned by the camp director, Mr. D, who turned out to be none other than the banished god Dionysus, complete with a constant craving for Diet Coke and a habit of getting everyone's names wrong, and Chiron, who revealed his true form as a centaur, I was handed an impossible mission. I was offered a quest to find the missing bolt, clear my father's name, and rescue my mother from the shadowy depths of the underworld. Along with Grover, who was eager to prove himself as a certified searcher, and Annabeth, who had been waiting her whole life for a real quest, I set out on a cross-country road trip fraught with divine peril. Our journey took us from the neon-lit streets of New York all the way across America, battling monsters and uncovering secrets at every turn. In New Jersey, we stopped at a roadside garden gnome emporium run by Medusa, a terrifying woman whose gaze could turn flesh into cold stone. Using a mirrored glass sphere to watch her reflection without looking directly into her eyes, we managed to outsmart her and sever her head, later mailing it directly to Mount Olympus as a message to the gods. We encountered divine hostility, mechanical traps, and ancient curses hidden in plain sight. In Las Vegas, we stepped into the Lotus Hotel and Casino, a glittering, hypnotic trap where time stood completely still. What felt like a few hours of playing arcade games turned out to be 5 full days lost to a magical haze designed to trap travelers forever. We barely snapped out of it in time, running back outside to find that the modern world had moved on without us, and the deadline for the solstice was dangerously close. Our path ultimately led us down into the dark, eerie depths of Los Angeles, straight to the gates of the underworld. Navigating past Charon the ferryman and the terrifying three-headed dog Cerberus, we crossed the river Styx into the realm of the dead. It was a bleak, terrifying place, filled with fields of asphodel and the eternal punishments of the damned. As we stood before Hades himself, in his dark obsidian palace, things took an even more terrifying turn. The Lord of the Dead wasn't just demanding the master lightning bolt. He revealed that his own helmet of darkness had been stolen as well. And worse still, when I reached into my backpack to check my gear, I discovered that the master lightning bolt had somehow materialized inside my own luggage, planted there by an unseen hand. Accused of stealing weapons from both of his powerful brothers, I had to grab my friends and fight our way out of the underworld, fleeing past armies of the dead and surging shadows to make it back to the surface world. Once back in the sunlight, the true mastermind revealed himself. It wasn't Hades, and it wasn't even Ares, the god of war, though Ares had been manipulated into guarding the stolen items and trying to stop us. A confrontation on a deserted beach in Santa Monica brought everything to light. A trusted friend at camp had been acting as a servant for the Titan Kronos, stealing the divine weapons from Mount Olympus to spark a war that would overthrow the gods and plunge the world back into darkness. Using the combat skills I had learned at Camp Half-Blood and drawing upon the raw power of the ocean granted to me by my father, I faced the god of war in single combat on the surf, managing to wound him and break the curse. With Ares retreating in humiliation and the master lightning bolt recovered, I rushed back to New York City just in the nick of time. Standing on the 600th floor of the Empire State Building, the modern entrance to Mount Olympus, I faced the king of the gods himself, Zeus. I laid the master lightning bolt at his feet and told him the whole truth about the dark forces stirring beneath the earth. Zeus listened, sparing my life and acknowledging the return of his weapon, while high above the city, the heavy storm clouds finally parted, restoring peace to the skies. Returning to Camp Half-Blood as a hero, I faced a summer of difficult choices. I had to decide whether to stay permanently at the safety of the camp or return to the mortal world for a normal school year. I chose to face my life head-on, knowing the truth of who I am, knowing that my mother was safe, and understanding that the world of myth and monsters will always be waiting just around the corner. That's all for the story. If you like this kind of story, please click like and subscribe for more video. Good night.